Well, I've just finished cutting all grass on site. It's an amazing day and it's going to get even hotter. This coming week we're going to be seeing temperatures of around 20 degrees. So it's probably a good idea to mention watering. There's two things you can do wrong when it comes to watering your plants. That's underwatering but also overwatering. And there's a couple of ways that you can identify whether your plants need any water or not. The first one is the leaves start to droop a little. That's a sure sign that they're ready for a bit of a top up. But on the other end of the scale, if you've got things in pots and you pick your pots up and they're quite heavy, there's a very good chance there's plenty of moisture in the bottom of that container. And that's where people make that mistake of overwatering. Your roots are going right down to the bottom, and if there's moisture at the bottom, your plants are fine. So always pick the pot up, and if it's really heavy, don't water it. But if it's not so heavy and you see drooping leaves, then you can give it a bit of watering. But another important thing is, when you start to get into temperatures of 20 and above, don't water your plants over the top. Water around the stem of your plants. Because if you water the leaves and the sun comes out and it gets really hot, it'll burn your leaves. And another good sign is yellowing leaves. You'll see that a lot, especially on things like cucumbers. If you give them too much water, the leaves start to yellow. But that could also be lack of nutrition. So make sure that you're giving your plants feed every 14 days. And you can use bloodfish and bone, or you can use a more instant fix, like soluble fertilizers. So you've got things like Miracle Grow and also tomato food. But I also use liquid seaweed as well. But don't give them all of those at once. Just pick one, because overfeeding your plants is just as bad as underfeeding. Another thing to note when it comes to watering with cucumbers, if anybody else has ever noticed this in the past, just drop me a comment. If you give them too much water consistently, they'll just keep trying to take that water up. And they'll do that to a point where they'll actually split the stem of the plant because it's got too much water in it. So once again, going back to drooping leaves is your best sign that your plants need watering. And if you're going to water your plants, I would either water them early morning before the sun gets too warm, or blast off at night, but not too late at night, just as it starts to cool down, because you also want your plants to have a bit of time to let that moisture drain out a bit. You don't want your roots sat in water, otherwise you'll get root rot. So it's not quite as straightforward as you might think. We just water as plants every day or so, and that is probably the worst thing you can do. You need to check first. They don't need water every day, and sometimes not even every 2 days. It just depends on these temperatures. But there's plenty of those telltale signs that'll help you along. And also when it comes to your pepper plants, they don't mind drying out to some extent. Once again, you will see that the leaves will start to droop. But if you pick that pot up and it's really light, that won't hurt peppers because they're a tropical plant. So they're quite used to the heat and drying out on occasion. Whereas other plants, it doesn't suit them as well. Some plants will start to drop flowers if they get stressed from lack of water or even too much heat. And that's the beauty of having a container garden. If that sun gets a little bit too much, you can always move them into a shady area. And that's especially important with your spinach. Don't leave that in full sun day after day, or you'll end up getting nothing from it because it will just bolt. So when you get to this time of year, proper watering and also feeding your plants is very important. If they ain't got the nutrition in that compost, they won't grow. So just make sure you follow that rule. Every 14 days, just top them up with a bit of feed. And also make sure that you stick to the instructions on the bottles. You don't want to be putting 2 caps full into a watering can when it says 1. Overfeeding is not a good thing to do. And if you're growing potato plants, you should be able to see the leaves starting to come through in those containers now. So that's a good time to start giving them feed. So they want things like phosphorus and potassium and a bit of nitrogen. And as those leaves get bigger and bigger, cut back on the nitrogen. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of leaves growing out tops of your containers and not many potatoes underneath. But either way, if you still get quite a few potatoes, those stems are going to start and get really tall and out of control. And then if we get any wind, which we quite often do, there's a chance that those stems could get snapped. Your plant won't die, it will carry on, but it will knock it back again. It'll probably try and send up some more chits. So there's a few things to consider once we start approaching this time of year. And it's not difficult, it's just making yourself ritualistic with the way you do things. If you're going to water your plants, water all your plants at the same time, and the same when it comes to feeding, because at least that way you know that everything's been done and you've missed nothing. It's very easy to miss out a couple of plants when you come to feeding. And also do what I was saying earlier, go round your plants one at a time, check for the weight. If they're heavy, they don't need any water. If the leaves aren't drooping, they don't need any water. So you can skip a few along the way. And then when it comes to the next time that you're going to water your plants, then you can top those up. That's the best way to do it. I'll show you the progress of our plants, because I think this year has been especially good, because last year, let's admit, was pretty terrible. But this year has started off really good and everything seems to be growing like crazy. If we take a look at these, look how those lettuces have come on. They're absolutely amazing. I'm going to try and leave these and let them art up, because they're like a small romaine lettuce and they're nice and crunchy, so I think I'll leave them until that happens. And as carrots seem to be doing really well. Don't know if we've got anything growing at the moment. We have definitely got a carrot, I don't know if you can see that, but there is a carrot starting to grow there, so that's good news. Make sure you cover the tops of your carrots up as well, because if they're sticking out at top and the sun gets on them, tops of your carrots will go green and you can't eat that part. So just check them now and again and cover them up if needed. As apple trees look amazing, they're now both in full flower. And the reason I've got two apple trees like that is because you won't get apples unless you cross-pollinate with two trees. So I'm keeping them pretty close together. And these peppers have been out for about a week, day and night now, and they're doing perfectly fine. You can also see we've got lots of flowers coming now on those tumbling tom tomato plants. And a few on this one as well. That's one of us container lettuce. It's come on really well considering it's only in a 2 litre pot, and I'm going to start picking leaves off this one because that's what I did that for. So we've got a mixture of 2 different types in there, and if we cut those leaves they'll grow back. If we look on this pepper plant, we've got little buds starting to appear, and that's the start of its first peppers. I've also left this cucumber plant outside as well for the last week, and it seems to be coping really well. And there is full-size tomato plants. I've got to get these put in some containers quite soon, and we need to pot that on as well. We're starting to get little side shoots appearing now, so it's not going to be too long before we have to get this moved on. And that's those onion sets that we recently planted, and they've now started to split off on those stems, and every one has now got green shoots. So we've definitely got onions, haven't we? And then next to it, they're the ones that we grew from seed, and they're looking really healthy as well. Something else that's happened over the last few days is as potato plants are starting to break through. And since we've now passed this last frost date, we don't have to worry too much about these. And hopefully that second tub will be breaking through anytime soon as well. I also left those tomato plants out all week as well, and they're perfectly healthy looking. The cabbages are going from strength to strength as well. They're now starting to art up a bit. And that's as multi-sown beetroot, and that's also starting to grow lots of leaves. And this green stalk planter is also looking amazing. Lots of stuff going on in there. As you've just seen, thanks to this increased warmth and extra sunshine, everything is looking amazing. We're ready to start taking this first harvest of fresh homegrown lettuce, and we're not even into May yet. So that's a good indication that it's going to be a good season, so fingers crossed that weather doesn't turn. But I know definitely this coming week, as I said previously, we are looking at temperatures of 19 and 20 degrees for the entire week. So that's why it's a good idea just to mention watering and feeding as well, because if you overwater or overfeed, you're not going to do your plants any good. So now you've got a bit of an idea, if you're a first-time gardener, of what to look for to decide whether you should water those plants or not. And if you get a bit worried about plants like lettuce, put those in shade, because they don't mind being in shade and it will stop them wilting as well. So that's about it for this video. Thank you very much for being part of the channel. As always, massively appreciated. And we'll see just how much more interesting things are going to get as we approach May. And if you want to see what happens through May, please hit that subscribe button and press that notifications bell. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care.